Right now at noon, teachers and school officials in Vancouver rally at Roosevelt Elementary over recent education funding cuts, and prosecutors lay out their case against a former Clark County commissioner accused of stealing thousands of dollars from a man in his 80s. Plus, food cart owners in Tigard say new city ordinances are cooking up a big problem for them, the message they had for city council. And later, we're joining the Oregon Ballet Theater for a little dance lesson or two. Will our Sunrise crew make the cut for their intensive summer program? Your news at noon starts at now. Thank you for joining us. I'm China Green. Governor Tina Kotek has declared a state of emergency due to flooding and landslides in 10 Oregon counties. Most of the damage is in southern Oregon. The declaration will direct necessary resources to help with the recovery effort. The governor also ordered ODOT to help repair and construct $10 million or more in damages and seek federal resources. As of today, all flooding warnings have expired. All right, headed over to Rod Hill on our weather deck this afternoon. Rod?
Well, good news that those river flood warnings have expired. At one point, there was a thought, China, that the Coquille River, which is in Curry County, wouldn't be back down below flood stage until tomorrow morning, but that's receded a little bit more quickly than expected. So all good news there. We are tracking a cold front offshore on this noon hour. Here's the satellite picture, and all of the cloudiness that we have in our skies, what's coming in ahead of that front. Now, where you see the green colors, a little bit of light rain trying to march inland. Here it is on Doppler radar at the noon hour. And this is the way radar, as we take a look at our next graphic, looked on the sunrise show this morning. And that is, there's just not much out there. We're not getting reports of anything other than flurries up in the Cascades, and so far not getting reports of anything other than a sprinkle along the coast. We're going to be dry for a little while yet. Here's a look at the Chinook Winds Casino Resort camera in Lincoln City, where it is dry, mostly cloudy to completely overcast and 52 degrees. The Rose City camera, we do have a chilly east breeze, I can tell you, up here on the KGW weather deck, brought to you by Rick's Custom Fencing and Decking. We are at 50 degrees. Troutdale's reporting an east wind gusting to 31 right now, and I would say approaching 20 at times here in downtown Portland. That day planner showed you the cloudy skies with the rain chances beginning at 4 p.m. this afternoon, and then likely rain going into this evening. More on your complete forecast coming up in about 10 minutes.
Thank you, Rod. Some Vancouver educators held a walk-in event this morning at Roosevelt Elementary School condemning the recent funding cuts on public education. One specialist says that they are already feeling the impact. Roosevelt Elementary School used to have 7 specialists covering language and learning assistants. She said that's now down to 3, serving a high multilingual population of 600 students.
We think they deserve a chance to learn just like anybody else. They need access to quality education just like anybody else. Their education should not be dependent upon their zip code.
This is not just a moment, but it is a movement that we will not stop until we get the funding that our students deserve, that Congress, promised to fulfill.
U.S. Department of Education have announced plans to cut its workforce in half last week and said it will continue to deliver on all statutory programs, including Pell Grants and funding for special needs students. We're learning more details in the case against former Clackamas County Commissioner. Melissa Fireside is facing 8 felony charges, including one accusing her of stealing thousands from a man in his 80s. A search warrant unsealed shows that the 83-year-old man was her mother's boyfriend, and Fireside coached him through resetting his bank account information. The victim believed that he was co-signing a loan and wouldn't have to pay anything. Police uncovered multiple suspicious transactions, including withdrawals from his account. We talked to a former prosecutor who was in charge of elder abuse crimes in Oregon. He says that those types of crimes rob older Americans of nearly $3 billion a year.
They are leaving elderly people frequently destitute, unable to have the life that they earned, and it is a serious issue.
Fireside has pleaded not guilty and is due back in court on April 29th. We have an update to the murder of a Beaverton nurse, Melissa Jubain. The trial for the suspect that was supposed to begin in September has been postponed to next year. Melissa Jubain was a nurse at Providence St. Vincent. She was found dead in her apartment, and her neighbor Bryce Schubert was arrested. Schubert's lawyers asked for the delay because they say they have to review large amounts of evidence and they are inundated with other homicide trials before the trial's original date will start. McCormick and Schmick's, the Portland seafood chain that went national, is closing its last restaurant in Portland under that name. In a statement, the business says that they will close the Tigard location on March 22nd due to the expiration of its lease. But you might still see some familiar faces at their sisters' properties, like Jake's Grill and Jake's Crawfish, as they move the team members over. Food cart owners in Tigard are concerned over new city ordinances that some say are keeping them from growing their businesses. But the city says that the new standards were needed to make sure that the pods are safe for everyone. KGW's Daisy Caballero talks to some cart owners about how they're handling the new regulations.
And we looked out the new rules and go, holy smokes, we cannot comply to these rules.
Gregory Miller is the property manager of the Hudson Plaza off Pacific Highway in Tigard. He's got 3 food carts on the lot now, but Miller had hoped to double that. However, new regulations have put a stop to the expansion.
We just have to have rules that make sense that we can comply to.
You will have 2 minutes for your topic.
Several cart and pod owners took their concerns to a city council meeting on Tuesday. They're worried about new development fees, a limit of carts per lot, and the distance they now need to be from one another.
We're just looking to talk to you so that we can move forwards, because all of us have spent a lot of money and we are all in a pickle.
According to a city official, these updated food cart regulations were approved back in April of last year, adding that affected property owners were notified at the time.
The proposed ordinances were just to really set up some standards and guidelines for owners and developers who are interested in food carts and how to navigate the design.
But because of confusion, the city just passed amendments to clarify the rules. Food carts and pods already established and licensed before January 28th of this year can keep operating. But those looking to expand or new carts have to meet the new criteria.
These new regulations are making it even more challenging, adding yet another obstacle to our struggle to revive the business.
However, not all car owners see these changes as negative, but rather the complete opposite.
It means that more and more people are starting to get into the food cart business, and so they want to be able to keep their eye a little bit more on it and at the same time keep it safe for the environment, which I feel like is a plus.
Daisy Caballero, KGW News.
Hours after Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed to a partial ceasefire in Ukraine, the two countries traded new strikes. NBC's Richard Engel reports from eastern Ukraine.
Here in Ukraine, President Trump's latest initiative to secure a ceasefire never got off the ground. It never took hold, not even for half an hour. This is despite a telephone call nearly 2 hours long between President Trump and President Putin, in which, according to readouts from the Kremlin and the White House, President Putin agreed to stop for 30 days attacks on Ukraine's energy sector and infrastructure. And according to Ukrainian officials, shortly after that conversation, Russian drone attacks were continuing once again, hitting a Ukrainian hospital, hitting power sources for the railroad industry here, according to the company. And President Zelensky said that Vladimir Putin's words don't match reality. It doesn't mean, however, that this process is over. Both sides say they are committed to it. They continue to thank President Trump for this diplomatic initiative, and discussions are supposed to resume in Saudi Arabia this Sunday, and President Zelensky today will have an opportunity to speak with President Trump. So the latest ceasefire, which Ukraine has already said it agrees to, and by the way, there were also Ukrainian attacks inside Russia overnight, so both sides were shooting at each other. But they both say they are committed to a process, but a process which so far has failed to take hold. Richard Engel, NBC News, Kharkiv, Ukraine.
And in the other war in the Middle East, the Israeli Military says that it has launched a new ground operation in Gaza today, sending troops back in the area. This comes just a day after Israel broke the ceasefire with a series of airstrikes that killed over 400 Palestinians. Israel Defense Minister warned that attacks would increase until Hamas frees dozens of hostages and gives up control of the territory.